Sports Rock Show.
The Rock.
That was Kashmir by Led Zeppelin off of the Double Disc Live Celebration Day, the soundtrack off of the DVD. Well, it appeared in theaters and then it's been released as DVD.
We went and saw that gig.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Absolutely
Excellent.
awesome. To see Jimmy Page play guitar with a bow, that's something to behold.
I did see him play with a bow a few times. With the Firm, he did it. Did it with I believe he did it with Plant Page.
Yes,
I mean that's a big thing for Jimmy Page to use the bow.
Yes,
that's classic Page.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
But that was for them to do that show, and that show's been 5, almost 6 years since that show was that they finally released it. They still can sound good. Robert Plant apparently doesn't want to be any part of a touring Led Zeppelin, but I know the other guys. All Robert Plant would have to say is, "I'm in," and I think they would tour.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be an extensive tour, but they would do 20 cities in the U.S. maybe.
I would tell you that we went and saw it in theaters, and they were tight. They sounded very good. They were all smiling and having a ton of fun.
They had rehearsed for quite some time for that.
Jason Bonham is down.
Oh, for
that
sure.
dude was having a blast.
For sure.
They sounded so good, and it seemed like such a, not really waste, but such a letdown to have them only do one show. I mean, at least play a dozen shows.
Stones gave you 5.
Yeah.
Well,
at least they came to the States.
We're assuming there's more to come.
Yeah, you're right. We assume there's more to come, but
I get it that these guys, may not. They're not in their 20s anymore. They can't do 4 or 5 shows a week and live out of buses and hotel rooms. I get that, but there's no reason why these guys can't give you a show or 2 a week.
Absolutely.
Go on tour for 6 or 7 months and give you 24 shows.
They owe it to the fans. In my opinion.
I agree.
Well, you were speaking of this too, and I don't know if any of you guys ever watched That Metal Show on VH1. Jason Bonham was a guest on there, and they were talking about this, and it was like he was so keyed and psyched to do this, and then they said, "Do you think there's any more to come from this?" It's like, "Oh, I really hope so." They said, "Well, what do you think the reality would be? Led Zeppelin doing a reunion or Guns N' Roses doing a reunion?" He goes, "Well, I'd have to say probably be Guns N' Roses before Led Zeppelin." And he was disheartened by that because he enjoyed it so much. Because these were guys that he was a young baby growing up, and then he actually had the opportunity to play with them and be an adult around them. Mm-hmm. And he was so psyched about it. But he even said, it goes, original Guns N' Roses would do it before Led Zeppelin.
He fit right in with Zeppelin. He's a pounder just like his pops.
He didn't miss a beat, man.
Nope, they sounded great. Really, if you get a chance to go pick up either the double disc or the DVD, definitely worth your money. It really is because it's great. They play all the hits. Yeah. I just don't understand why. It seemed to me like they were all having a lot of fun. They were interacting very well. I just don't understand why they wouldn't do a tour. To me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, if you're a lead head, it's a must. The DVD or the disc, it's a must because it was great. It was fantastic.
Yep. So moving on, we're going to discuss round ball in this segment. The Cleveland Cavaliers are sitting right now at 16-35, fresh off a loss to the Denver Nuggets. Since the trade for Spates and Ellington, they played very well. Spates is giving you double digits off the bench in both points, sometimes rebounds. He had 18 points in the win against Charlotte. Ellington's had a couple games now with double digits. They've been playing very well. Livingston is starting to come in his own. That's a guy who I think has a lot of talent, who could definitely be developed into a very good player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are 10 games behind Milwaukee for the 8th seed, so they could make the playoffs. It's a long shot. But right now, what do you think the future holds for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Doug?
Well, the Cavs aren't making the playoffs. Well, let's put that to bed.
I agree, but mathematically, it's still possible.
Okay, mathematically it is. Let's say realistically, it's probably not.
Right.
And as Cavs fans, we don't want to make the playoffs. We don't want to be the 8th seed and screw ourselves out of a potential lottery pick in the top 3 or 5. But the trade, I think you mentioned since they made the trade, I think they're 5-3 or something like that since they made the trade.
They're 6-4 in the last 10 games.
Maurice, the ace of spades, has been huge. I mean, now since that trade has been made, the Cavaliers starting 5, though I'm no fan of Alonzo G's, the Cavaliers the starting 5 is able to play a little bit with some of the better teams, and certainly some of the worst teams. But that bench now, when you bring in Miles and Livingston and Spates and Ellington, and either leave Zeller on the floor or Thompson on the floor, Luke Walton comes in at times now. But with those 4 guys, the bench has now become a strength for the Cavs. Now when they go to the bench and they take out Thompson, they bring in Spates, they're not losing a whole lot.
Right.
Obviously, you lose when Irving goes out, but Livingston has really helped. Ellington can knock down threes. And not to boot on top of that whole trade, we got number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And we have Josh Selby, a point guard who's only 21 years old at Canton.
In that, to reiterate your point of the bench, in that win against Charlotte, they had, I believe, 4 or 5 guys in double digits, and they had another probably 2 or 3 with about 8 points. I mean, they're spreading it out, and they're getting a team effort, and I think that's something that's going to be very, very huge for the future of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, their bench is 100% better now than what it was.
Oh, without doubt.
3 weeks ago, since the trade. Now that you can bring in some guys that can score. When you're bringing in guys like Walton or Boobie Gibson, Omri Caspi, you bring in those kind of guys, you just don't get much production off of them. They're bringing in guys now that can score the basketball.
Yeah. Yep.
They ball.
So there's not after the first quarter's over, most of the starters play the first quarter, and even if they're down by 5 or whatever at the end of the quarter, then they've got to bring in their bench versus the other team's bench. Now they can play even with them or a little bit better maybe.
Right.
As before, the other team's bench would probably outscore our bench 2-1 because our bench sucked. Now we can play with them. I mean, we beat the Thunder on this the last 10-game stretch.
Yep.
So we
hammered the Bobcats.
And we got to beat those teams. We couldn't.
Right.
We don't have enough to beat Denver. We didn't have enough to beat Denver. Denver's a good team, but I like the way the Cavs are moving. I like their coach. I like Byron Scott. I think Grant's done a heck of a job. I think you pull off a trade like this for John Lure and get it. If you traded John Lure and got a number 1 pick, I'd be dancing the streets.
Yeah.
But to get Spates and Ellington to boot, who are both only like 25, and Selby, who's 21, who may be a point guard that could, another year or two, maybe the guy that could be a good backup to Kyrie. I like what Grant's doing. I like the way the Cavs are headed.
James?
I agree totally. This won't be their year. Mathematically, yes, they're still in it.
No, right. You're right.
But I think the trades being made, the draft picks that are coming in, the unity that they're building on this team. See, these guys are coming in here like Spades. I like them now. They're coming in here. It's like they've got a whole new lease on life, and now they're Cavaliers, and they're happy to be Cavaliers, and they're playing. They're playing hard.
They are.
They
really are playing very hard.
This is the key thing. They're playing hard. They want to be here. They're doing good. They're showing they belong in the NBA. And they're not very old. So we get through this season. Learn, grow, develop as much as we can this year. Next year, NBA championship? No. By no means. But a big step forward, especially with what we can bring into this team after this season, is humongous. It's humongous.
One possible issue would be Spates, who has a player option at the end of the year for $4.5 million. If he decides to opt out, Cleveland could lose him. What I would suggest the Cavaliers do is a bit underhanded. It's probably done everywhere. Would be to trade Spates. He's got value.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got value to a team trying to win a championship as an extra big.
I think Boston Could be a good landing spot.
If you could weasel a player out of Boston or the Knicks, whoever, a number 1 pick, and maybe a young player, maybe a small forward, we could certainly use, with the intention of telling Spates, we're going to trade you to a contender. We're going to give you a chance to maybe win a championship.
Yeah.
Whether it's Oklahoma City or the Lakers, whoever, we're going to give you a chance to go to a contender. Somebody that's probably going to make the playoffs. I don't know about the Lakers. I don't think they are, to be honest with you.
We'll talk about that.
To tell him to say, okay, we're going to give you a chance to play for a contender. We can get a number 1 pick back, and maybe a role player on our bench for you. If you decide to opt out, we want you back.
Right.
We will pay you. We'll give you a bump from $4.5 million to maybe $6 or $6.5 to come back if you let us make this trade. And say, hey, yeah, what are your feelings? And Spates is like, well, I'm making $4.5. He likes it in Cleveland. He thought Cleveland was going to draft him. He, from what I read, he generally likes to play for the Cavs. If you
not many of those people.
No, there's not. And if you tell him to say, hey, I'm going to be upfront with you, we can get this for you.
Right.
But we want you back.
Mm-hmm.
If he'd be willing to accept that and say, okay, well, I'll opt out because I know they want me for sure, then I would be open to trading him only for the fact that I knew I could get him back.
Right.
If he would, you'd almost have to make me a promise that I'm coming back.
Right.
Because fuck, I don't care if it's underhanded or not. That's what James and them did in order to get their super team together.
Yep.
They conspired to do it. Well, all we're saying is we're going to trade you to a contender, give you a chance to maybe get a ring. It's hard to say.
Right.
I mean, I'll trade him to Miami. I don't care. If they're willing to give me something of value for him, I'll trade him there and then have him turn around and come back to me next year. Because we lose him, we're probably going to lose more games somewhere down the line. But that's okay. We're going to get a high draft pick. I think they've got 4 of the top 35 picks in this draft, I think. So you take that, plus what you can get in the trade for Spates, then get Spates back next year. That's a win-win for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Well, I love what you said, too. If Miami happens to be one of the teams, get him down there. Get him down there with LeBron and say, hey, this is what we're going to build here in Cleveland. I'm going back to Cleveland, bro. Come with me.
Yep.
Come with me, because I'm going back, because I know what's there, and it's good. Come back there. I'm only here for now. I'm going right back. Come with me. Hey, that's not all. That's a good. And you have to think that way.
I'd like to keep Spates. There's no question about it. But if he's a trade chip I could use now because he can opt out. He has a player option. It's not a club option. Because if it was a club option, Cleveland would keep him.
Mm-hmm.
Because next year he's going to make $4.5 million. That's a bargain.
That's cheap, absolutely. For
But
a player of his caliber.
But if he's willing to say, yeah, I get what you're going to trade me to a team that could win a championship. So you're trying to help me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm still going to opt out.
Right.
Even if I would have stayed, I'm going to opt out because I got to explore possibilities instead of making 4.5 to make it 6 or 7. I just have to.
Right.
And if Cleveland says, hey, we understand, we're going to try to do this for you, but we want you to understand that when the season's over and you opt out, you come back to us because we want you.
And we're going to give you some money.
I think that would be, and you're
Yeah,
going to get a bump. You're going to make 4.5.
You're going to make some dollars, man.
We'll send you to a $2 million bump if you just let us make this trade.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, you're going to make a
Like
little
I
money
said, that
coming
might
back,
be a
too.
little shady in the NBA world, but fuck, so is every other shady deal that's pulled in the NBA.
There's nothing shady about it. It's all above board. It can be done. There's nothing wrong
Well,
there.
if you trade him to a team and he contributes and maybe wins them a championship, even if he opts out and leaves, they've gotten what they need out of him.
Well, true. They'll win a championship, and 9 times out of 10, probably the team they're going to trade him to is going to be capped tight. Capped tight.
Yeah, right.
So they're probably not going to be able to re-sign him anyway.
Which is how you got him in the first place, was from a team that was capped
Right.
out.
Right.
And the ace of spades comes back to Cleveland and brings LeBron back with him, with Kyrie Irving, Dion Waiters, and whoever else we bring in, Tristan Thomas and.
Well, I think they're sitting on 8 number 1 picks in the next 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
they've got some. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been
they've got cap room,
stockpiling cap room and draft picks. They're going to do something with it. Whether or not it's bring LeBron back, I don't know. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, Chris Grant has something in mind for those picks and for that money, and it's not just to let it sit.
And
they're not going to make those picks. They're going to trade them for something.
And to reiterate what Doug said, too, Grant has done a great job with what he's been able to pull off. And what he pulled off here was like freaking Houdini, man.
His draft picks are looking better as we go along. Obviously, Kyrie is a great pick.
But some people doubted that, though.
Tristan Thompson was a questionable pick. He was still questionable up until probably the first part of this season. After Varejao got hurt, he's been playing and playing and playing. He's a double-double guy.
Deion Waiters has turned out to be a pretty good pick.
Waiters is still a young player that's looking to be probably right up there in the top 2 or 3 for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And Tyler Zeller. I mean, all four of his top 2 draft picks in the last year are all playing in the Rising Stars game on Friday night. Yep. Irving and Waiters and Thompson and Zeller are all playing in that game. So something's going right. I mean,
Kyrie accepted the invitation to the 3-point contest as well.
Yeah. He's going to be doing triple duty.
Kyrie's
he's playing in the big game, too.
Have they announced him starting yet or not?
I don't believe he's going to start. I believe
LeBron will
that
start.
Spoelstra is the head coach.
Yeah.
He's going to shift LeBron to point. He's going to start Chris Bosh.
That's bullshit, too.
Because he's going to take care of his Heat players.
Yeah, he is.
But nobody.
And I get that. And to be honest with you, Irving doesn't have to start. That's not that big of a deal to me. I just want him to get through all the activities
healthy.
See, that's number 1. And number 2 is this. Even if he doesn't start, look who he's elbowing with. Look who he's schmoozing with. He's schmoozing with some of the best, not just LeBron James. He's schmoozing with some of the best. And they are there, too. And you know what? They're giving him the kudos. Because believe me, you look around the NBA right now, people know who Kyrie Irving is.
Oh, hell yeah.
They play for the Cavaliers, but they know who he is.
As highly as Cleveland Cavaliers fans regard Kyrie Irving, I would say the rest of the NBA regards him maybe even higher.
Well, he's regarded.
There's a lot of people out there who have I personally feel that Kyrie Irving in the next couple of years could be better than Chris Paul.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, hands down.
I know, and to be honest with you, I would take him over Russell Westbrook. Even though Russell Westbrook is a very talented player. He's a loose cannon. I really like Kyrie. I think Kyrie is going to be... He may not be a top 5 point guard now, although I would argue that he is. Some people would disagree. In the next couple of years, he will definitely be a top
the word is that Eric Spoelstra will not play Kyrie Irving and LeBron James on the floor at the same time because he does not want to see the future of the Cavaliers.
Well, I don't know if there's any fact to that or not, but if it were to be a fact, I can believe it because he would see firsthand what could happen.
Yeah, no way am I putting these guys on the floor together.
He would see firsthand what could happen.
They're already buddies.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely buddies.
And we know what happens when LeBron finds a buddy. He tends to migrate towards him.
Yeah, he does.
Well, and he may actually be willing to migrate back to Cleveland.
He may have a decision part 2. He's going to take his talents to Lake Erie.
That won't be done. That won't be done in that way, but because I think he learned.
I'm taking my talents to Euclid Beach.
I think he learned his lesson.
Really quickly, moving on. The Los Angeles Lakers are 24-28. They just lost to the Miami Heat. They are 3.5 games out of the playoffs, out of the 8th seed, which is currently held by Houston. Do they make the playoffs? And if they make the playoffs, do they make any noise in the playoffs, James?
Well, right now, they're really iffy if they even make the playoffs. There's only one person on that team that is going to give them the benefit of making the playoffs, and that's Kobe Bryant. We hope, as Cavalier fans, they make the playoffs.
Yes, because let me lay this out for you real quick. The Cleveland Cavaliers, if the Los Angeles Lakers make the playoffs, then their first-round pick will not be lottery protected.
Exactly.
So, therefore, the Cavs will get it.
Yes.
If it's a lottery pick, it's lottery protected, so the Cavs will not get it, so they will wind up getting Miami's first-round pick, which could very easily be the last.
Oh, hands down.
So the Cavaliers, you're a Cavaliers fan, you want the Lakers to make the 8th seed and then get bounced in the first round, because then you're looking at probably 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. I think 16th.
Yeah.
You're looking at a pick there instead of 30th or however many NBA teams there are.
Okay, now back to the question, though.
Yes.
Do I want them to make it? Yes, only because I'm not a Lakers fan, but because of the Cavaliers and Cavaliers' favor. Do I think they will make it? That is like one of the biggest on the bubbles there is because, quite honestly, the only thing they have in their favor right now is Kobe Bryant, and it's going to be kind of hard, especially with Howard, the problems he's got, with Paul Gasol out basically for the year. They're not saying it, but
it was.
They're not saying
what 4 to 8 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, but
that.
that's a pretty big injury. But
if they make the playoffs, he could be back for the playoffs.
All we care about is making the playoffs.
Right.
They just have to make the playoffs. Losing the first round's fine. That's what we want.
Right.
But will they make it? I don't know. To me, that's like taking dice and rolling them because that team is such a dysfunctional fucking team in the world. It's hard to say what they will do. They could. Who knows?
Without Gasol, they don't make the playoffs.
I agree. That'll do it for this segment of the Sports Rock Show. We'll be providing more ear candy in a little bit. Stick with us.